Podcast. You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast.
You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm the other host, Alex.
That's right, because there's no co-hosts around here. We're just hosts. Both of us.
Yeah, it's a podcast with the most hosts.
The hostess with the mostest.
Exactly.
Podcostess. Today we're yeah, it was bad. So today
You tried it. I respect it.
We're talking about we were gonna try to get to two topics, but we only got to one. It's totally okay. It's totally like a really weird roller coaster again. I think that's just kind of where these are. You kind of have to come to terms with it. But we talk about the function of friendships to an individual, like what is the actual use of it, and like how to engage with that healthily. How do people engage with it unhealthily? What are the new challenges of that and the current time and space we live in? And
yeah,
what else?
Well, we bring up some cool things. I think they're cool. Maybe people don't, but I thought the rabbit effect was cool.
Yeah.
I think Aristotle's classifications of friendships are cool.
I think that was
or
pretty
at least
much
useful.
That was a highlight for me. I think that one was like when the light bulb clicked. I'm like, okay, I think I understand this even more than I did before.
Sweet.
Yeah. That's really cool. I'm gonna get into that, and then
I become a cigarette apologist. That's cool.
That's fun, and I like.
Well, that's not cool per se. Is smoking's that cool anymore? Vaping's cool, but
oh boy, it's literally smoking 2.0.
We get off road a little bit.
we do, but
we bring it back. Though.
That's kind of. I feel like we should change the name of the podcast to the Night Shift Off-Road Adventures.
Off-road adventures off the cliff, bro.
Off the cliff.
Straight off the cliff.
Yeah, it's we just kind of go off the rails, man, big time. But it's totally cool because it's really fun. We have a lot of fun with these kind of conversations, and I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I was a little worried. I thought you were gonna end our friendship on the podcast at one point, but
no,
we went off. We came back in.
I thought it all glues together.
Yeah, I prefaced breaking up with you, and then now we're in. The roles become reversed.
The cuffs get rolled up. The dukes are out.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I definitely learned a lot, and I hope our listeners do too.
Yeah, without more ado, something. I don't know. Here's the podcast. There you go.
You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast.
That was perfect.
You clapped?
I did. That was in sync, dude.
Oh, yeah. All right.
That was we were like Justin Timberlake right there.
Ooh. Some Timby Lake, T Lake.
As he's called.
No one ever calls
I know.
That.
I've never heard that up until this moment.
Yeah.
God bless. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. The podcast. Do we have a name for the podcast?
Yeah, it's called After Hours. What are you?
Oh yeah, duh.
Are you okay?
I'm not.
You're not okay.
I'm not.
So, we're talking about a couple things today. We're trying out something new, a little bit. Not really that new, but basically instead of it's second episode, so it's everything's new.
Exactly.
But you're gonna bring a topic. And then I'm going to bring a topic, something that you're really familiar with and researched in. And I'm, at least, you've read some literature on it. You have something to bring to the table.
Okay.
And vice versa, right?
Don't pay me as an expert. That's just, please.
So just a general disclaimer going forward, neither of us are an expert on anything.
Thank you. Okay, good. We're just a couple of dudes.
Putting it out there. We're not experts on anything. This isn't a news source. This isn't investment advice. This isn't medical advice. None of this is advice in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it is. Yeah. I don't know. But it's not coming from a place of authority. It's coming from a place of experience, right? So like we only have what we have, and then what we have is our experiences and how we perceive the world. That's it.
Yeah, grab a couple, like a salt shaker or two. You know?
Yeah, I would say, a couple of what do they call those? The sacks that you get like in the farms. What are those?
Like the
I
burlap
have-
sacks?
Burlap. Thank you. Grab a couple of burlaps worth of salt there, and just kind of
Buckle in.
Yeah, buckle in. Your topic is about. Remind me again, because you phrased it differently than I did.
Bless your soul. Okay, I'm just going off. It doesn't matter. The point is, I'm coming to the table a little bit with the functionality of relationships. Is
Okay.
what I'm gonna open up the discussion for.
And is that the functionality of romantic relationships, or is that the functionality of all relationships?
We're gonna start with friendships. Actually,
Ooh,
that's where we're gonna
okay.
start. We're gonna start with a little bit of Aristotle.
All right, so we're
see where
gonna
that
gonna
goes.
attack our person like this. Like at the end, we're not gonna be friends anymore. Basically. What
Oh
you're getting
God, no. Yeah,
at. Okay.
this
Yeah,
is my breaking up with you
Uh-oh.
podcast.
Uh-oh. Okay. So hit me. What do you? First off, do you have any thoughts on that topic, or like, how do we start? How do we kick this off?
Well, I guess, yeah, maybe the reason why I think it's interesting, like relationships in general, right? Not just specifically friendships, is they're kind of glossed over. And maybe we're not going to start with Aristotle, because maybe I'll segue into something else really quick. Because what's so interesting is you hear a lot about like the diet, and exercise, and all these things that you can do personally.
Is this referring to like what to do in the face of like depression or declining mental health
Well,
status?
just health in general.
Okay.
People, like all you hear about, right? Like, oh, I want to be healthy. What do you think to do?
Diet, exercise, go outside,
Sleep well, yeah. And those are all important. I'm not saying they're not, but what's interesting is there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot because I'm not an expert, but from what I've been exposed to, it seems like there's some really interesting studies and evidence that suggests that like relationships actually are a far more important aspect to your health, both physically and psychologically. Which we don't go to the doctor and like, oh yeah, like, have you worked on your intimate like friendships? Like they don't say that. They like say stop eating the jumbo muffins and get on the treadmill, fatty. Like,
Well, right. So your general physician isn't going to ask you about your immediate relationships with people.
yeah.
But your psychological therapist or psychologist, what the fuck is that word?
Psychologist.
Psychotherapist.
There you go. Sure.
There we go. I can't words today.
You don't need to complicate. You just need to say psychologist or therapist. Like either one works, dude.
Why didn't I just say therapist? Yeah, see, I have
don't
a
know.
problem. I have a real problem. Like, I don't know. Overcomplicate.
Gotta
the shit out
complicate.
of things.
Yeah. Like just slow your roll. We're good.
You overcomplicate. Don't even.
It depends on the topic, really.
Yeah, it does. Same though. But so therapist, right? Your therapist. So your physician won't ask you, but your therapist will. That's one of the
Right.
first things your therapist will ask you about, actually.
Right, but like, I mean, if you're thinking about your physical health, though, you're not gonna. So, like, let me give you an example. Like, have you heard of the rabbit effect?
I haven't. For the record, I think I agree with you. But yeah, go ahead. What is the rabbit effect?
Okay. So I'm skimming the details a bit, but there was a study done in the 70s on rabbits, and they're trying to find link between like stress and like cholesterol or something, or high blood pressure. I can't remember. Something to that effect. Some sort of cardiovascular deficiency, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing these tests on these rabbits, and they found that like some of the rabbits, like, because they're all genetically similar, like they're from the same like family and everything, like blah blah blah.
Sure.
And they found like some rabbits for some reason were just doing way better than others, and like they're like looking through, it's like, okay, they're on the same diet, they're on the same like exercise regime, like what is going on with these rabbits that like is different from these other rabbits, right? And
Yeah.
so what they did some investigating, and what to their surprise is there was a caretaker who was handling the rabbits differently. She was actually like talking to the rabbits and petting the rabbits and like showing affection towards the rabbits.
Right.
And that was making them healthier. compared to the other rabbits. There's nothing else. Yeah. So that's just one example. Another example, there's a psychologist, Susan Pinker, who does TED Talks about, what's like the best predictors of living to 100. And like the top two are, well, the top one is intimate relationships, like how strong are your intimate relationships, and the second one is like how strong is like your broader relationships.
Interesting.
So like, diet isn't even in the top 5. So,
really?
Yeah. So it's important. Obviously, I'm not saying like don't worry about your diet, but like
right, because there are obviously there's plenty of literature to say if you don't eat right, you're gonna die.
Or
sooner.
you're more at risk to develop certain things like cardiovascular disease and cancer and all that.
Yeah. Okay. So like this is a kind of a common idea, I think, because people understand that like dogs that can experience separation anxiety, or cats, or just pets in general, right? Pets in the home typically experience separation anxiety from either their owners, or if you remove a pet from your home's little tiny ecosystem, it's because that is what it is, right? You're going to introduce separation anxiety, and then if that's not dealt with, right? If you're just somebody who's never home, and you're leaving a dog that relies upon, or a cat that relies upon a lot of social attention and stimulation, like they're going to get depressed, right? And you can actually, pets die from depression just from not having a lifelong companion, right? That may have died recently. Like, have you ever had a cat die and like your other cats are like, oh shit, something happened, dude? And they're all fucking weird for like a long time.
I can't say I have. Like, I'm not too experienced with cats, but like
anybody who
I
has
believe it.
Anybody who's had cats, like multiple, and like has had one of them die, knows that like cats know what's going on. Even dogs, right? Like if you have like a dog and a cat, and the cat dies, the dog knows the cat died, right? And they like show like they show patterns of mourning and like compassion or empathy in as much as they can, because they're animals, right? But I guess what I'm getting at is like it's not a far-fetched idea at all, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of part of the reason we wanted to even start the podcast to begin with, because like there seems to be like this glossing over of like relationships, or like some sort of perversion to
right.
Yeah.
So I guess to kind of piggyback off this, because this is like if we're gonna go down this rabbit hole, this one specifically, something I'm particularly interested in is the effect of social media on people and their relationships, because I think what's directly relevant today, like today's problems, right, is the way that we kind of offload or even kind of short order demand friendship by going on social media, by using things like Discord and video games. Video games being a really, really big one these days, and has been for like the past 5, I would say longer than that, but really like if you're to go into like studies, like there was a study on the effect of people. I have to dig it up, so pardon me for not being able to like bring it on command, but I'm just remembering like there was a study on people who played WoW and like had like a regular raiding party, right? And then like maybe that raiding party disbanded, or the guild disbanded or whatever, and then people like weren't able, like the people who weren't able to find a new guild to like be a part of, like developed symptoms of depression like rapidly. And
yeah, I
like
can see that.
and long, not like immediate, because immediate's like almost expected, right? Like you lose, it's kind of like obvious that if you lose some friends or people that you saw as friends, right? Like you're gonna feel some sadness, right? You can feel the feels, but like long lasting terms of depression, right, is like, I don't know. It's almost like it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I don't want to be one of those technological alarmists, which I have been in the past. I've been one of those people that really doesn't like technology. I'm kind of like undoing a little bit of that, because it's kind of ridiculous, I think, for me to feel that way.
I was with you for a hot minute
I won't get into it right now, but like we definitely can come back to that particular side of things. But
Sure.
like nowadays I'm starting to like kind of realize that like this is just the evolution, right? This is just the evolution of how we develop social relationships, right?
Right.
And that's okay, but like it's still so new to everybody, right? Like this method of developing this method and the rate at which it develops, right, is new to everybody, including people who've been alive for 50 plus years, right? It's new. We don't know how to do this the right way, and because of that, a lot of unhealthy habits form really quickly because we don't know how to balance our life online with the life in reality. And like that sounds like a really obvious thing when I say it out loud, but like think really deep.
I don't
like I know
think
you.
it's necessarily obvious.
I'm kind of like it. I don't see how it's not. I guess I don't know. I guess maybe I'm always like thinking from the outside perspective of like how would someone else interpret this, and it's like, yeah, like don't spend too much time online, get a life, kind of thing. It's kind of like an obvious thing someone might say, right, in response to that.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I mean, look at sorry, I have a cough. Like look at the current age though. Like everything is online right now.
Everything.
It's kind of ridiculous if you aren't spending a lot of time online at this point.
Yeah, you're kind of under a rock. You kind of like are not in the know. I feel like I'm constantly like under a rock when someone brings up this thing or brings up that thing, and I'm like, dude, there's only so much internet memology I can like stuff in my brain before I like need to like turn off and go do something else, right? I don't know. I just
for
can't.
sure.
And like nothing wrong with that either. I guess what I'm getting at is there's an amount, like I feel like it's really easy to brush off what I'm saying, I guess. That's kind of what I'm foreseeing is like there's an easy way to kind of brush off like, oh yeah, balance and everything, right? Just like don't spend too much time online, loser. But like the fact of the matter is everybody who might say that might be participating in unhealthy online social media habits and not know it. Like I feel like it's almost like a silent killer in a way. Like it's like how they say sitting is the new smoking because sitting.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Right, for prolonged periods of time is like almost as or more detrimental to your health because like people aren't walking as much, people aren't.
Well, like here's where I'm going to push back just a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
I just want to like if you're going to make claims, or maybe not if you're going to make claims, but when we as people make claims like sitting is as bad as your health as smoking, like I just want to be more specific, right?
I don't disagree with that. I guess I was more. I'm using it pretty loosely because
right.
Like, if you've heard the term, you kind of already know like what people are really getting at. But if you don't, and you like think like, oh, okay, so it's fine to smoke or something. Like obviously, you don't want to misinterpret the.
Well, and I want to give like smokers some credit because like they, oh god,
they stand
like,
up.
It's well,
they stand up to smoke, dude.
They stand up to smoke, right? Well, some depending on their smoke break, but like,
or they get up to smoke.
How horrible is it that you're like, oh yeah, do you have this habit? That habit's bad for you. You're doing a bad thing. Like they don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like
right, like they're just like completely oblivious to the fact that they're just inhaling carcinogen
smoke.
And
right.
Yeah,
well,
all
like,
sorts of shit.
Like just an example. So I used to work at a gas station, and I was serving a customer who was buying cigarettes. No judgment. You do what you need to do. And behind this individual, there was another person who was holding like all the fast food like items that is served.
Okay.
And then like smoking's bad for you, right? It's like no. I don't think they knew. Thank you. Now we can put this pack of smokes back. It's like, there's benefits to smoking, right? Like, there's actually benefits to it. Like, it's not just bad. Like,
so, like, people would... I know what you mean. But, like, also... But it's just... I'm more so... What's more so funny to me is just the irony of, like, someone, like, holding all of this, like, gas station food
Right.
on their arms. They're just like, you know, smoking is bad for you, right?
That was actually closer to the voice than I did. Yeah, you weren't even there, so
Yeah.
props. But like, it's just like I feel bad for smokers. Like I have a lot of respect for smokers.
Why?
Because like,
That's
well, they're
really-
resilient. Because you hear people like, oh, you do that disgusting habit. It takes 7 minutes off your life. Eat cigarette. Like it's just how much do they have to endure?
I'm
people.
gonna push back a little bit because it's not like they are like brave soldiers who like have to endure all of this verbal abuse while they choose.
Well, it's
to
not
do this
abuse, but it's
thing.
like annoyance.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to upplay someone smoking as like a.
Well, I just think
Oh,
smoking is
great.
not like.
It's not that bad. It's not. Yeah,
Well, it's obviously it's bad, but like people are aware of the risks, right?
right.
Like that's pretty much on the table.
Yeah,
like-
we've had enough truth commercials to like last a frickin'
Truth and dare, yeah, exactly.
millennia or whatever, right? Like how many of those do we really need to see to like get the idea? Like, okay, we know we're gonna fucking die a horrible, painful death where our lungs are black and hollowed out and cracking, right? We get it, okay? Like,
And I can
move
make this
on.
even a little bit more controversial,
oh,
just a
okay.
little bit.
We're kind of diverging hardcore from like
What we agreed to
the
say.
the function of relationships. But you know what?
Oh,
this
that
is our
too,
this is our podcast. Let's go for it.
Whatever. We're just gonna
what?
fall off a cliff right now.
Yeah.
This is okay. You're gonna need the whole world of salt for this one. Okay.
Oh boy. So like, am I gonna be salty, or do I need like to like be prepared
just need
to just
be-
put out a
just
dumpster
don't-
fire with salt?
Right. Exactly. The latter. Like
Okay.
you're not gonna be salty, but I'm saying like there is, to my knowledge,
Well, somebody might. Be salty.
loose evidence. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That smoking cigarettes can actually prevent
Oh, okay. I gotta bleep that one, buddy.
But yeah, smoking's bad, but like it's not the end of the world if you smoke, right? Because it helps. There's a reason why people do it, right?
It's a choice that you make to
Mm-hmm.
like it's because on one hand, right, people smoke to deal with stress. But
Oh, they
honestly,
smoke- yeah.
but honestly, also, like I feel like it's hard to say that without having a study in front of me that says clearly they are more capable of dealing with stress by smoking. Like I don't have that study in front of me.
Don't
I
need
even
a
know if
study,
it
dude.
exists.
You
don't
don't
know
need a
if it
study
exists.
because we're just going off of people's motivations, right?
Well,
You don't need a
sort of.
study to know that.
Because like, what if like because it's almost like looking at smoking as a crutch, right? Because it's something you need, and when stress is introduced to your life, right, you feel that need stronger, right? So you go and engage with smoking to help deal with the stress. What if you had never smoked? Would you still need something to aid you in dealing with that same stress, given the experience being similar? Do you know what I mean?
but
So like there's almost like how much of that is actually handicapping you and how much of that is actually like making you better at dealing with stress. So it's almost like I don't want to say, I'm not comfortable saying like smoking is going to make you, there's benefits to smoking in terms of like dealing with stress because of
right, and I'm not gonna say that, but like there's more than one reason people smoke, right? It's not just a crutch on stress. Like people do it to be productive.
How does
Similar
that
to
make you-
caffeine. How does nicotine make you more productive as a stimulant?
It's a stimulant, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could
Well, stimulant
easily-
and like a calmant, or a calmant. That's not a real word.
Calmant?
But like, what's the depressant? That's the other thing. It's like both a depressant and a stimulant. I mean, I'm not well versed in nicotine or anything, but like it can have a calming effect and it can have a stimulating effect, right?
I'm gonna look this up because I'm kind of like
Yeah, pull that
curious
shit up,
now.
Jamie.
Nicotine acts as both a stimulant and a depressant to the central nervous
Boom.
system. Oh, look at that.
Your boy,
Specifically, first causes release of the hormone epinephrine.
which is a steroid, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a
so-
hormone. It's a hormone, not a steroid. But
It's a steroid, makes you strong. Smoking is for strong man. America. Lucky Strikes.
there you go.
Sorry.
This video is sponsored by Lucky Strikes. It's not
boy.
actually. Please don't sue us.
No. I'm gonna have to beep so much.
I'm a really bad person to have on a podcast.
No, it's fine. It's all right.
But
We get through it. We muddle through. These are the mistakes we make that we can put into our Patreon, which you should. I'm kidding.
we'll bounce back, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Damn, dude. Damn, Daniel. We got really off track. So let's bring this back in. So, you were talking about the function of friendships in relation to somebody. I was going on like how that now looks very different than how it did 30 years ago, given, online communities enabling people to have almost immediate gratification and inversely immediate dissatisfaction or immediate, feelings of loss, right? Because if you lose, let's say you're in a Discord server or you're in a guild or whatever, and you get banned, or like a forum board, right? And you get banned from that. But you had like all these friends that you built out in that space, right? And maybe you didn't, you weren't smart enough to make friends with them across multiple different platforms. So now you have no access to those friends, right? You just lost.
Whoa, you're intelligence shaming people for not making friends cross-platform, dude?
I'm not intelligence shaming.
You just said you're not smart if you weren't smart enough to cross-platform.
Yeah, if you made a mistake and didn't cross-platform, make friends with people. I don't know.
All right, I mean,
it's a weird
way to put it.
It's not that weird.
Okay.
Okay, I want to get into this now. I'm gloves are off, buddy. All right, let's go for it. So, how is this intelligence shaming? Come on, come at me.
Well, you're saying people. Oh, you weren't smart enough to do this, to make this investment strategy with your friendship, idiot.
I didn't say idiot. I didn't
know
even
you
say
did.
it with
It was like
tone.
implicitly there.
My tone was okay. I didn't mean it that way.
Okay. Maybe that's how I interpret it. So maybe I'm being too sensitive to it, but
that's okay.
So I'll back off.
That's okay though. So like I think this is really good because this is kind of just showcasing like we can come at each other and like not attack each other, right?
I don't know. I find it hard to not attack you sometimes, but
it's impossible for me all the time. But no, the point I'm making is like
right.
We can talk about stuff. Like if you have a problem with something, we just talk about it, right?
Right. Well, like sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So moving on, I didn't mean to like intelligence shame. Like I'm not saying like you're an idiot, right? If you just, I probably poor word choice because I know that's like a thing for you, like that particular topic.
Okay. Yeah.
So like if you just simply didn't make the choice to make those friends cross-platform, now losing out. We diverged so hard, so fast from like just a recap. Okay, recapping, right? Talking about function of friendships, going into how that looks today on social media or mixed in with social media, right?
Yeah.
And what that looks like. Basically, there's a huge problem. I see it. Other people see it. There are books and studies being done currently. There's a documentary on Netflix about it called what is it called? Is it called the social? It's something. The something problem. I can't remember. The social dilemma.
I'm not familiar with that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's called The Social Dilemma. It's a really good. I shouldn't say really good because there's some dramatic parts that are just really fucking cheesy and I just don't like it. But like if you get past that, if you get past the dramatization of it all, which is kind of sad because the CGI was like the graphics done really, really cool, done really, really well. But like the story, the way it's kind of forced, and I don't like that part. But like besides that, right, the whole thing of it, what it's talking about is like there's a new social landscape, and we don't know how to quite navigate it adequately to avoid all these new problems that we never even knew were possible to have.
Sure. Yeah.
Which just adds a new dimension to like an already complicated like social landscape, right?
Yeah. I kind of go back to the WoW Raiders, but I want to bring in some terminology with Aristotle, and then we can kind of go from there.
Hit me.
So in Aristotle's book, God, I'm gonna mispronounce this, Nicomachean and Ethics. He talks about there's three. He distinguishes three different types of friendships. Okay. So he lists one as friendships of utility, where you do, I'm with you because you help me, and you're with me because I help you, kind of deal.
Yeah.
In some sense or fashion.
Tit
Then
for
there's-
tat, quid pro quo.
Exactly. The quid pro quo, which no one engages in because we're all virtuous.
Right.
And then there's friendships of pleasure. I get some sort of pleasure, maybe from your company, maybe from. I guess I'm not too familiar with the friendship of pleasure. I'm a little rusty on it.
Okay.
But I'm assuming it comes down to either just
You're entertaining
talking
to be
or-
around, so
or entertaining, maybe. Yeah, that could be too. And then the last one is like a virtuous friendship where you like the person because if I'm remembering correctly, it's like because you see yourself in them, because you, and by yourself it's like not you, it's like you, but like your virtues. So like
right. You you align on similar values, right? So you're like, this is the person, like it's almost like in a way you kind of look up to them because they sort of represent ideals that you have.
I wouldn't say quite like that. I mean, that's definitely can be the case.
Okay,
but
maybe that can be a relationship. I guess to me that's almost like what I often find is the case is like, whenever I have like if I were to identify a friendship as like in those terms as one of virtue, it's often the case that I look up to those people because I see the good in who they are, and I don't see that as much in myself, but I see the ideals in myself, and I like see them realized in them, so that kind of gives me something to drive forward to.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think that would be part of the virtuous friendships for sure. When I was conceptualizing, I thought it was more like more of like a mutual respect. Like I'm a like if you're a courageous person, right? Like think of like war buddies, right? Like, oh yeah, like this dude is gonna have my back, and I can respect that and see that in him, and like vice versa. But there could definitely be like an idealism or like a idolism kind of involved as well. I don't think that's.
I almost
separate.
feel like there's got to be, and I don't think it has to always be this way, but I feel like there probably is like a progression, right? So like if you're friends with somebody, you just met them, you're in the army. Let's just go with that because I think that's a really good example. So like you're in the army, you're buddies with these guys, but like you kind of have to because if you don't, it's gonna be weird. So like in a way, to me, that's social utility, right? You're being friends with people to avoid the opposite, which is ostracization. And then
Sure.
as you get to know them, like you start to play games with them, you gotta gamify your friendship, giving each other shit, right? That kind of makes it more of a friendship of pleasure. And as you get to know them even further, you start to dig deep into who they are and what they represent, and what they personally idealize, right? You kind of start to, if it goes this far, right, that would be kind of something that morphs from that into a friendship of virtue, right? Because you're kind of progressing the friendship from something of utility to something where like it's almost like it's layers of familiarity in a way.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I would struggle to think of an instance where you're just starting out with the friendship, the virtuous friendship, because like how is that even possible? Because you have to like get to know someone like
Right.
before you can see like what virtues and like positive qualities they have. And so I think I 100% agree with you. You have to kind of go through the stage of at least like utility or pleasure.
Yeah, because I would say, because I agree with that, but I would also say that it is definitely the case where you've been friends with people just because, they're fun to be around.
Oh yeah, like
I'm
I
not saying
definitely have.
there's nothing wrong with that at all, but like there's no utility in it. It's just they're funny or like they engage in the same games as you do or whatever. Like they play in a band, you want to play in a band, and that's fun, so you do that, right?
Right, exactly. Right, or like they play the same video game in some cases, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of bringing that terminology because like going back to like the guilds or like the WoW guilds, like would that be like I guess it's hard to say, right? Because we're not talking about guilds what we've been in. We're talking about guilds that other people have been in.
Right. And
So this is all speculative.
It's very speculative and abstract, but like I totally see where you're going with it, and I definitely think because you're gonna acknowledge friendships on an individual basis typically, like not always, but typically. And I feel like in a guild space or like a team space, let's just say, like there might be somebody in the team that you don't like, but like you have to be cordial and friendly with them, so they're friends of utility, right? There's people who are just genuinely fun to raid with. Maybe they suck at the game, or maybe they are like annoying to play with sometimes because like they're always late or they're just not consistent or whatever. But like they're fun to be around. They're fun to play with. So you play with them anyways, right? You put up with that. But then there's people who genuinely like one show up or like feel similarly about the game that you're playing as you do. One and two, they agree on like how you have fun with the game, and they agree with like, you know, how you go. Like basically, they sort of more closely align with you on like how you best play the game. If you're somebody really into that sort of thing, or do the task, literally swap out guilds with literally any team that has ever existed in any context ever. And I feel like that definitely is a progression or like a way to kind of gauge levels of familiarity with people.
Oh, for sure. Like, and just yeah, kind of going straight. Like, you can replace it with like anything cooperative, really.
Yeah.
Or like you said, team. I think even like just the more I thought about it, because like at first I thought like, oh, we could apply like one of these terminologies to like the guild itself, but then as you mentioned, like you don't you measure each relationship individually. So I can actually see like people having all three of these types of friendships in a guild, just a guild, or like or a team, or whatever, whatever, a sports team,
or like on a Discord server, like
sure,
or like in a band, a rock band or whatever.
That's
or
a good one. Yeah.
A dance team, or like literally I could just keep going and you'll like agree with all of them because they're all going to be
Examples,
different ways. Yeah, examples of the same thing, right? Some sort of cooperative journey that you're all engaging in.
So, yeah, I mean, so it is cool to think about, like, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about like, the negatives of technology, but also like the positives of technologies. You can get these friendships through technology.
Yeah, I think
as well.
More accurately, it's just easier to comb through stuff, right? Like if you had to do this in person, like if you only could make friends in person, think about that for a second.
Oh God.
Yeah. And then also like think about what that would look like, right? So if you don't have any friends, let's say you move to a new city, and you don't have any friends, what do? You have to go out into the world and live life, right? You got to make some mistakes. You got to go to the bar and get drunk around the wrong people and then regret that entire evening, never go back to that bar, go to a different bar, right? Realize you hate drinking. Why are you doing this? This is gross. This doesn't even taste good. Like you don't even enjoy the sensation of being drunk. You're getting really hot faced. You probably shouldn't be drinking. You probably have a heart condition. So like, why are you doing this? Stop going to the bar. And then you stop going to the bar. You start looking for like other things to do. You go to a store, like a game store, and you realize, oh my God, these people are losers. Nothing wrong with that.
Ugh.
But like,
sweaty losers. Ugh.
And I'm not like that. And I'm not like that, right? I'm a Chad, bro. But I also don't like. I'm a Chad who doesn't like bars. That's weird. So like you know what I mean? Like you just go on this really fucking crazy adventure, 90s movie adventure, right? Like trying to like figure out how to fit in the world. Whereas nowadays, you don't ever have to leave your fucking house to be a social creature.
Yeah.
Are you taking a piss right now, dude?
Yeah, dude. Sorry, I'm pouring lemonade into a bottle.
Right.
All of this sounds like a euphemism. I understand. I promise you that's...
Yeah, I'm just being a dick.
I know, that's good. I realized it was awkward when I was young. I'm like, this is totally being recorded.
YOLO.
But yeah, before, like you're saying, you have to go on adventures, and now it's like, click of the button, like, boom, I found a Discord group.
Right.
Am I chill with this group? Nope, not at all. Click.
Nope. Delete this server and like leave a bad review on Discord because you're. It's
Petty
almost
like
weird.
that?
It's almost weird to say it's petty, but almost like maybe that's what you should be doing in this climate. You know, it's almost like
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on it.
it's
I've
hard
never
to
left a
say
review.
because like we are now. It's a weird thing to say because we're both on the precipice of 30, right?
Oh
Are
yeah.
are you 30 yet? I can't.
Oh,
remember.
I'm over that hump. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the
I'm
big
not.
3-0.
So you're the big 3-0. I'm about to be right.
Yeah, coming up March.
April.
March.
April.
Damn it.
Yeah,
I knew
close
one of
enough.
those two.
So
Yeah,
like,
exact.
right, and like looking back, like if you were to tell me like you spent all your time on Discord, or that's where you socialize, right? But like you have a great time doing it. You have meaningful friendships. You have people that you play games with, or that you write. Like if you're a writer and you write with those people or whatever, right? But you also engage in like social stuff. You have a job. You have activities you do, or what are like for example, I'm a filmmaker, so I go out and I do the film thing with other people, right? That's a real world social exercise, right?
Right.
You play Magic a lot, right? That's an in real life social exercise, right?
True.
So like, but then if you were to say like, okay, well now you can't do either of those things, but you can still use Discord, you can still use Facebook or Reddit or 4chan or whatever it is that you use to socialize on the internet with, right? Like, is that a terrible thing? Is that a horrible thing? Are you like, you know? And I feel like on one level, so this is my opinion on it. So that's my question I pose to people. But my opinion on it is, on one level, there's nothing wrong with that because if that's what you got, that's what you got. At the same time, I do think that you're going to find more fulfillment in real life. And
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I can't really quite quantify why I feel that way. Because I don't know that to be true. I just feel it, right? I just kind of feel that that's the truth.
Right.
But I feel really strongly about it. I just feel like no matter what, real world relationships are always going to trump
Well, and this,
online relationships.
yeah, this kind of goes back, I think, to maybe a mystery alluded to earlier this podcast. You know how relationships are a pivotal part of health.
Yeah.
And you can't really like explain that with words, right? Like I don't think you can really scientifically be like, well, obviously like having purpose is going to give you a sense of fulfillment, and without it, like you will die. You know, like that's not, you can't explain how that's going to work with the molecules and that's not going to, at the end of the day, it's not going to come out, but it is there.
Unless you're a neuroscientist, and then
Well, no, I don't know. I'm not. I don't have the authority to speak on this, but I would say I don't think a materialistic worldview can explain why that's the case.
Yeah, I don't have an argument against that. I can't. I don't want to say that I disagree because I don't disagree, but I also don't have a strong. Like if someone who knew better were to come along and say, well, actually, this is how you can explain it. And it's actually pretty basic, like, neurophysiology that's like going on here with the hormones and the dopamine stuff. Like, okay, maybe like the whole idea that we like do a lot of communication with our eyes, right? A lot of communication with our eyes, a lot of communications with our hand
Face.
motions and our face.
Well, body in general. Yeah.
Body language, right, is so pivotal to like adequate communication. Which always makes kind of the idea of a podcast or an audiobook kind of funny, but whatever. But like that stuff really is important. But then what do you say about people who don't have that? Are they still getting the same experience? Is it just is the fact that those things that are happening on your face and with your hands, like I'm talking with my hands right now, they're going all over the place. Like is the fact that happens still relevant even though you can't see it? Can you still feel it? Or
I would say yes.
But even if you can't see it and you can maybe kind of feel it, is that still a watered down version of you being like right in front of me and saying all these things?
Well, yeah, I think it's a lesser experience, but like I mean, not by like to the point where it's like, oh, this is a trash experience, or this is a terrible experience in comparison. Like I still think there's a lot to be gained, even just like you and I right now having the conversation. I think there's a lot to be gained.
Right. I guess I'm not saying like it's an inferior experience. I don't want to say that, but maybe there is something to the IRL, like real life experience of being in front of somebody that we just can't quite quantify. Like it's almost like on a
Right.
subconscious level. I'm kind of getting at like we kind of need the body language to sort of like validate the fact that we ourselves using body language is a valid thing. Like if I'm just using my hands, why am I using my hands talking to you, Alex? You can't see me.
Right.
You
But
can't
it's just
see me. Funny, you knew what I meant when I
um,
said that, but you didn't see me doing the hand waving thing like John Cena, but I was doing it. You know what I mean? So like if you were
right.
to see that, would that be different? Right? Is there some
Hmm.
subconscious thing where it's like validating like, okay, yeah, well, you're a human, I'm a human, we do human things, and that makes me at ease in some way I can't explain or even like acknowledge because I don't even know that that's something I need.
Yeah, I actually want to pose a question to you.
Yeah, hit me.
Um, have you ever been in a conversation where one of the parties did not? Okay, so let me clarify. And ever been in an online conversation where one of the parties did not have a webcam?
Yeah, I've been that guy.
Okay, explain that. How do you feel during that?
So I could explain both ways. So if I have a
Okay.
webcam and like most of the people there do, and there's one person who doesn't, um, it
Well, like
gen.
specifically one on one though.
Okay, so one on one.
Yeah.
Well, one on one, that's weird. Like, okay, so I'll go into that real quick. So
Okay.
if let's say you and I are having a conversation and I have a webcam but you don't,
Right.
I'm gonna turn off my webcam
Interesting.
because there's some sort of weird reciprocal need for that, right? Like if I can't see you, I don't want you to see me.
Yeah, like it is weird because like there's a asymmetrical communication.
Right, because you and I've seen people do it anyways. So like there'll be one person with a webcam on and everybody else doesn't have one. But like maybe
Hmm.
that person is like and I've actually done this too. I think I've actually done this in like a Discord chat, right? So like I'm driving and I still want to like communicate with my friends like I don't know, I talk and drive. It's just something I do. But I don't like want to text and drive because that's dangerous, right? But I could
Right.
talk. I could talk all day, right? Um, and like maybe people want to see what I'm doing, and I'm just driving, right? And I've seen other people do that too. They're just driving, and they're in the chat and they're talking, but they're not. You know, they don't see what you're putting in the voice chat or whatever, and they don't
Right.
have a camera, so you can't see them. But like you're almost okay with that because it doesn't matter because they're not actually looking at you; they're kind of looking at what you're looking at. So there's almost like a voyeuristic kind of thing going on there. But like, I don't think I've ever seen it where their their face is showing. Or let's put it this way: when I have seen that, I thought it was weird.
Yeah, it is really jarring because like I've had the experience like both ways recently, and I was like, this is really weird. So like my first experience, I had an interview for the job I'm now currently working at. I passed the interview, spoilers, and the person's webcam like crashed. Like the person who was interviewing me. So like,
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm just gonna have to go on, but like I couldn't turn mine off. You know, so like I could have been like, oh well, you don't have a webcam. I'm not putting my, So like I had to do it, and like that was so weird because like I was struggling to get feedback sometimes because I'm like, oh, I think I crushed that, and then like I could send something in their voice, but I couldn't like see their body language. So I'm like, I don't know like if I'm crushing this or not, like or like how to recover. You know, like it's super weird.
yeah.
And then like now currently at my job, I'll meet with my supervisor once a week, and they will have a webcam, but I don't.
Oh,
And I'm like, this feels weird too. Like I want to put on my webcam because I want to like show, like reciprocate the body language they're putting out, but like I can't. So like yeah, it's really weird to have like that asymmetrical webcam. Like I don't know because like it's hard to explain, but like it's definitely uncomfortable
yeah.
for either way you're part of that.
It almost feels like when you're on the other end of that, like you can see them, but they can't see you. It almost feels like you're at an advantage.
Kinda, yeah, because you get to like hide your cards, I guess.
Yeah, they can't see what face you're making. They can't see your body language at all, right? Like you could lie your
Yeah.
pants off,
Yeah, it
or
would
just
definitely be easier
or
to
just
lie,
not
a
gi-
hundred percent.
or not give them any feedback. So like if you wanted to fuck with somebody for some reason and make them really paranoid, you could just like not give them confirmational body language, right? Or like auditorial confirmation of like, yeah, I'm listening to you, I can hear you, or like, okay, yeah, that's good. Let's go to the next question, right? Because like you could just type out what they said. Okay, so now you know what I mean. Like it's really
Yeah, you totally don't have to give away anything. Yeah,
so
which is interesting to think about. Like how much because like what do they say, like body language is like 90% of the communication or whatever. I don't know how much of that is true, but like it's definitely a lot, like a large part of it.
yeah, there's like some sort of pardon me, like my voice is going. Um, yeah, there's some sort of like it's definitely something that's been touched on. You definitely read an article about like how important body language is in an interview or whatever. But like, and I don't know what the actual percentage is, but it is kind of nuts just how much of it you miss when you don't have it, and
And
someone
yeah,
else
just
does.
right. Cause like yeah, like they have to, they're like on display, right? Like they have the spotlight, and you get to kind of like you kind of said like it's a voyeuristic thing. Like you get to be like an outsider looking in.
Like think about
Um,
like the old police shows, right? Where they put the like really weird coned head like lamp over the subject, and then like they can grab it and like shine it in your face, but then you can't see past the light into their face. So like
mm,
they get to look at you and analyze you, but you can't look at them or analyze them. You don't get to see their body language. I get to see your body language. It's very
oh, that
accusatory.
it's an authority thing. Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
this is
it's a
actually
power thing.
interesting. Yeah, this actually reminds me of Jeremy Bentham's Panopticon.
Yeah, is that the idea where there's like this tower at the top of the tower, the person or the warden can see all of the cells in the
Yes,
prison?
yes, yes, yes,
Okay, yeah.
exactly. But the people can't see into the tower, so they actually
Yeah.
don't know if there's someone in the tower.
And they never are aware if someone's in the tower or not at any given moment. They just know that there
Right.
is someone who goes into the tower to watch them.
Yeah, which like totally has this crazy psychological effect, right? Because like you have to assume you're always watched, despite the
Right.
fact you're not being watched all the time.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
it's a weird power dynamic thing going on there. I think Foucault talks about that when he's because he has a book that just goes on and on and on about the balance of power.
well,
Or
I think it's a article, yeah, the panopticism,
I think
where
he
he kind
actually.
of
I think he had a book where he talks about like the evolution of power and like what it used to be like in like
oh
the 1600s, where if you stole something, they would do all this crazy, horrendous shit to this person in public. That's like the only
mm,
person that would get punished like that, but like they just needed somebody, they just needed everyone to see that like this person was being punished and not as like a deterrent necessarily. Like, I mean, yeah, it acts as a deterrent, but it also acts as like some sort of justification. Like, hey, the government's doing what it's supposed to be doing. You want people to like be punished for stealing things? We're punishing people for stealing things, or for murdering, or for raping, or for not paying their taxes because you have to pay your taxes. Why can't they pay their taxes, right? So like, there's like that. His book goes into like that sort of reciprocal, like, yes, you hold power, but there's also an expectation to use that power the way that we enable you to use it, sort of deal.
right.
And as long as it looks like you're doing that, you don't actually have to do that. Because then they went in, because anyone goes, I think it's Foucault. I could be totally like butchering the shit out of this. I can't remember. Maybe it was something
It
else I read.
sounds like something Foucault would write about, so like I'm
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. So like basically if you just like there's the whole dilemma of like I can't remember what they called it, but basically like when you're a soldier in battle and like let's say somebody is going to get shot for treason or for um, what do they call that when you're a defector? You're a defector, right? You're defecting from the war or something, and they have
Yeah.
like a lineup, right? So like you as a soldier, and you all have to fire, like it's a firing line for one person, right? They only really need like one or two people to shoot that guy. They don't need all of you to do that. So like if you just want to miss and not be someone who's a murderer, you can totally do that and no one will know. The effect is the same. What does it matter if you shoot him, right? So you can just miss just barely and like you didn't shoot him, someone else did. Plausible deniability of the crime. So like if you go back to like the 1600s or 1500s, even during the Inquisition times, right? Like they straight up would like make it seem like someone was being beaten and tortured and stuff when they were being questioned. They only needed to do that under certain circumstances. I'm not at all suggesting that like they didn't do horrible things. They totally did.
Right, right.
It
was all acting.
Right, it was all an act. No, like I'm saying that there were a lot of times where there were people who objected to that behavior and then acted. Right? Wasn't everybody, wasn't all the time. It's just oftentimes if somebody could get away with looking like they're demonstrating power without actually, like they were fine with that, because as much as there was like a fear of them exerting that power, there's also a fear of them not exerting that power because then they're not doing their job and the people revolt.
Right.
I forgot how we got into this topic. You were talking about the panopticon, and we were talking about body language. And
I love how
we talking about.
Well, like the main like idea was like functionality of relationships, but I actually think what you were saying is very on point, because there's a relationship between people's expectations and the roles we have that we're playing. So like if you're the role is the Inquisitor, right, you have to play that role, like you're expected to, right?
Yeah.
So as long, and if you're not comfortable playing that role, like you might still try to go for the optics of it, because you are like accountable.
Right. You're accountable for getting this answer, and by golly, if you don't do it, you're not doing your job, and we're going to fire you. Not only are we going to fire you, I mean, nowadays that's it. You're just fired.
Well,
but you might get in trouble for you might get slapped with obstruction of justice. If you're a cop, or if you're a business, like a company, right? Like say you're I'm not going to put your favorite local cable company on blast, but let's just say you are somebody who works at your local favorite cable company, and right, like
right.
big giant corporate structure, and you have to fire these people. You don't want to do that. Hey, you're new to this junior management position. You want to fire some people? What? No, I don't. Well, too bad. You have to, because I said so. You just tell them I said it, even though really I'm making you do the dirty work, right? That's something that happens all the time, right? You don't actually want to be the one to lay somebody off. You want someone else to do it so that you can say that you didn't do it, or at least to yourself, you can say that you didn't do it.
Sorry, you just brought up something really interesting. Like, I find it fascinating that how much people struggle to like fire or like break off a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I've struggled with it many times. How many times have I I'm friends with somebody right now that I feel like their behavior is becoming very toxic, and maybe they are they're changing in a really weird way I'm not really cool with, not jiving with. And obviously me just demonstrating that even a little bit like has them like being really hyper paranoid and thinking everything I say is like something as a slight against them. And I really just need to talk to them about it, right? It's really obvious. I just need to say, hey, like, what's the deal? What's going on here, right?
Right.
I can't do it. I struggle with that that sort of what's the word?
Confrontation?
That's it. Thank you. I struggle with that kind of confrontation sometimes because, like, honestly, I don't think there's really anything that wrong. Or maybe there is something wrong that I did and I didn't know about it, and I have, like, anxiety about that. But honestly, you just need to kind of nut up and do it. And that's easier said than done because, like, obviously I could say that to somebody else doing the same thing, but, like, I know that it's something I struggle with because everybody I feel struggles with that at some point in their life, even if it's not always. like at some point you've struggled to tell the truth, because that means you have to deal with the truth of, what is real. Like you don't get to pretend there's not a problem anymore. You have to actually like confront not just the truth, but the problem underneath the truth, right?
Yeah. Well, I just, I just find it so fascinating. Like now kind of reflecting back on it and like going back to like early in the podcast, there's this idea that like we kind of alluded to, where like, relationships are kind of like a part of your physical health. Right. And so like when you cut a relationship, it's kind of like cutting like a physical part of yourself. Not like it's not obviously like cutting a, because like there's different ramifications for like cutting off a finger versus breaking off a relationship, right?
Right.
But in a lot of cases, there is a lot of overlap too, because a finger, what does it do? It offers a lot. You can helps you grip things, use tools. In another way, relationships also help you achieve other things, right? You can get advice or perks or help.
Right. I think
all
like
those other things.
the fact of the matter is that either way, that both of those things represent more than the thing. They represent exponential outcome, right? Because if I have my fingers, if I have my hands, if I have all my limbs, right, that means I can do so much. If I just lose a limb, things change, right? There's all of a sudden the list of things that I can do, right, diminish. And if I have less friends, that means less possibility of things to do, things to experience, things to
Opportunities.
right, opportunities, people to meet, right? Because knowing people means you will know more people. It's an exponential. If you're meeting new people and you're making friends with the people you meet, that's an exponential growth. It's just that's business marketing. I'm sorry, business networking 101, right? You make friends with people who introduce you to other people. You make friends with those people, and your network grows really quickly. You do work. You do good work for somebody, they'll introduce you to somebody else, etc. ad nauseum. So like cutting that off is almost like it's not just cutting off that one friend. It's cutting off. Like it and
Potential network. Yeah.
And looking at it less pragmatically, right? All the experiences that you had with that person are now going to be soured by the fact that it didn't end well, right? I had to cut off a relationship with somebody, a friendship with somebody later last year. And it was really sad because even though it was a newer friendship, I've really had grown to like the person as a person, right? Like, kind of like going back to was it Machiavellian? Is that the right word? Is that the right word? Machiavellian?
Well, Machiavellian, yeah.
Friendship things?
Oh, sorry. You're talking about Aristotle's Nicomachean?
Nicomachean. What'd you call me?
Machiavellian is a different philosopher or writer.
See, I'm not a philosophy guy. Like, I don't know. I kind of am, but I'm kind of not. So, like... Yeah, so like, if you look at it from that angle, like that was a virtuous friend of mine. Like that would be somebody who I actually shared their views on a lot of things. Didn't share their views on everything, but like I saw some of my ideals realized in them, and I respected the hell out of that because it's in my mind kind of hard to do. And on top of that, like it's somebody that they respected me. There's a mutual back and forth respect for things. But like the relationship became really toxic and really, it became very about things that friendships shouldn't really be about in my mind. Money and ownership of things. And
well, let's parse it a little bit. I just want to parse this a little bit. So like virtuous friendships shouldn't be about money and stuff, because then it's becoming a utility friendship.
Yeah, sorry. To be more specific, yes. Yeah. Virtuous friendships shouldn't be about money or ownership of things. It should just be about truly just enjoying that person's company and existence, even. Like, not even necessarily company. Because, like, kind of going into it, like, our friendship. I think, you are, like, my best friend, right? I don't have somebody closer to me than you. And, like... If you were to start talking about like all these things I owed you, or like if vice versa, that would get
Ooh,
really...
thanks for bringing that up. Actually, okay.
But like that would get really fucking weird really quick, right? Like if if you or I were to start like bringing out like the frickin' calculator and start calculating up all our friendship.
Yeah, you remember that one
costs.
time you picked me up from the airport? And
Yeah, I owe you money, bitch. Wait.
I wasted so much data talking to you on the phone. Like,
You couldn't find me for 10 fucking minutes. I could have been out of there with Uber. Yeah.
yeah, no, I agree.
It
it would be like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, what's happening?
So like when someone, so I guess that's kind of an interesting like realization to have, right? When someone brings up a friend of yours, they start bringing up money, and I don't mean this on the whole because I feel like you can't truly classify all friendships all one way, right? Not everything is
right.
super black and white that way.
That's why we're crutching on Aristotle.
Yeah. There are what was I saying? I got thrown
You're
off.
talking about like friends, and then like if they bring up money, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, like there's people who like, because obviously you could see somebody doing that or saying that, like claiming that. Like if let's say I just spotted you for rent or your mortgage or whatever, right? And like, okay, I can do that, but I need that money back because like I'm gonna be in trouble then, right? And then you're like, oh no, we're good, man, because we're friends. Well, no, because that's not how this works, right? There's definitely like boundaries that you don't cross, right? Like,
for sure.
But like beyond that, right? If you just start like if you start making the friendship really transactional, and I don't know, I've definitely had this happen to me where someone like came out of nowhere and was just like, yeah, so can you pay me back for this stuff that like on the outset I didn't make apparent that you'd have to pay back, even though you've also spotted me at times where you didn't ask for anything back. So technically, if we really want to get into the nitty gritty, we'd be even. But like, I'm not playing that game. Now I'm playing I'm desperate for money and you're just a money pit for me. So give me money. Money a lot needing now. Me, give me money. Yeah, that friendship, that like style, that like person doing that, I don't even want to say they're a bad person because maybe they're just really desperate.
No, right,
crazy
exactly.
But like in that moment, you as a person, right? If you thought they were like one of your best friends, right? Somebody that you respected and that they respected you, all of a sudden just, hey, buddy, give me that money, honey. You're gonna be slapped upside the fucking face, and you're gonna feel really alienated about that. And again, I want to be clear that like settling things that you agreed upon, you both would pay for, like is different. Or like if
obviously, yeah.
if you're giving money
you had, like,
with the expectation that it gets paid back, like that's different because right, like we all work to live, not the other way around, right? So obviously, but I think I'm kind of running out of steam on this topic, to be honest.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying. Well, I think it brings up an interesting point. Going back to like the Aristotle classifications, it's like if you have this idea that you have like this virtuous friendship, and then suddenly they're like, oh, like by the way, actually this is now like a friendship based on utility. Like that like changes the whole game up. Like that just completely ruins it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like I was saying before, maybe that happens and it's terrible feeling and like, but just to be clear, that person might be doing that out of desperation. Maybe they don't mean that. Maybe they don't mean to look at your friendship as something as a utility to them, right? But maybe in that moment they're like cornered against they're cornered by all these problems,
right?
And they need money. So like, and they can't just ask you for money because maybe they feel weird about that. Maybe they don't like doing that, or maybe they legitimately do feel like you owe them, but they just haven't collected on that. And all of a sudden they clap you across the face with, hey, I need that $400 back, or whatever, or like 20 back, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm
I don't know. I'm totally like spinning out.
No, you're good. I was just like, because I feel bad, right? Because I deal with people as part of my job who like they'll try to like nickel and dime you, and like, that's not because like, at least what I tell myself, right? Like I don't know this for a fact, but like, people who do that to me, it's because they're just they're in bad positions, right? Like they wouldn't be that way if they weren't like if it wasn't coming from a need, right?
Right.
So going back to things like, you can't. If someone is in that way, like in that position, like coming at you like that, like maybe, it is good to like keep in the back of your mind, like, maybe they're just having a bad, like, they're just in a rut, and like you can maybe like still distance yourself, but like always like kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, well, they might be going through something. Maybe you can even help them. Like, yo, like, do you need a little bit extra money, like for something? Like, is this about something else?
I think
but maybe they're being a douchebag too. So like, you really gotta parse it.
Yeah, well, I think what's sad sometimes is that we even come to this like understanding, right? We understand that like people don't always know how to ask for help, so maybe they come at it a different way. But there's still people who like always just seem to need money. They always are strapped, and maybe that's just where they're at in life. But like, it still will make you feel alienated. It'll still make you feel like you're just being used, and in a weird way, I think that you just have to kind of give them space without judgment until you understand really what's happening. Because maybe they just changed for the worse, right? Maybe that is something that happened. But like also maybe they're just they've had a fucking shitty year, And they need some time and some sort of landing pad to like rest on for a little while. And they don't know how, they've never been in that position before, and they also don't know how to ask for help. So it comes out in a really weird behavior. I've seen it happen. I've probably even been in that space myself. But like,
for sure. Yeah, I think we all have at one point.
If you can't recognize that in the moment, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because it's honestly sometimes really hard to recognize. But freaking sociologists can't recognize all the different, nuances of human psychology when it happens as it happens, right? It's just kind of something you have to look at retrospectively and, retrospectively with new information, kind of like reevaluate. It's not something you can evaluate adequately in the moment.
Yeah, and I really liked what you were saying before. Like, you don't have to judge the person. Like, you can definitely judge the action, right? But, like, you don't necessarily have to label the person as, oh, this person is a scumbag because, like, they're desperate in the moment. Like, right? Like, that's a completely different way of looking at it versus, like, they are currently acting out of desperation, right? Like, that's like, those are two different, like, frames of mind.
Yeah,
to have.
and obviously, like we're so like in no man's land right now. But sort of not.
No, I think
we're sort of
no,
not.
we're super on topic. We're super on topic. I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you could take that and run with it in a completely different direction, and I totally kind of want to, but I'm not going to.
Okay, where do you want to go with this?
Because like that's totally like how. That's how I would respond to like a lot of internet criticism about everything. Like just about anything and everything people like want to like throw hate at or like name call people because maybe someone says something off color and that gains a really vitriolic reaction from a certain group of people, right? But like the truth of the matter is, one, maybe they didn't mean it. Two, maybe they said it in under really interesting circumstances that you aren't aware of. There's a lot of different. I always say when like I'm writing and like when I'm talking to people about like the scripts they write and stuff, that like people or characters are still people, and people are very complicated. So like if someone has like an illogical pattern of behavior, or like if something just doesn't sit right with their intention, or maybe they say something that's really bad, just simplifying it, right? That doesn't mean that it's unrealistic for that person to still be something else other than what that might obviously point to. People are very complicated, incredibly complicated. And what they do and how they act in the moment is incredibly complicated. And why they do what they do in the moment is incredibly complicated. And I guess that's all I'm really getting at is like I could go off on a huge tangent about a whole bunch of other stuff not related to this topic, but related to that. And I don't know.
Yeah, I think I want to go off of that a little bit because something I thought is kind of a maybe adds a layer of like humility is it's really easy to look at people that you don't understand and be like, oh, that person is illogical. It's a lot harder to like think of the logic of what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like the difference between that?
100%. It's like,
because
you could say, if I'm understanding you right, you could say like this person's acting illogically, therefore, they're dumb, or like
right, they're crazy, or any other label you want to add to it, right?
Right. But like at the same time, you could come at it retrospectively and think through that process of like, okay, well, obviously people are really complicated. I didn't have all the facts then. I do now.
Well, I think you're missing the boat a little bit. I think you're on the boat.
Yeah,
for sure. But you're like still in the water a little bit too. You're trying to climb out.
Spin the boat.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I see someone like rob a store, right? I could look at it and be like, "Wow, how irrational to rob a store!" Because now you're in prison, right?
Yeah.
Like, assuming they got arrested and convicted and all that stuff. On the other hand, it's harder to be like, well, what would the logical steps be to like rob a store? It's like, yeah, one, you're probably gonna like need money, so like you're in desperate times, and then like you don't have any other, like you don't know any better, you don't know any other alternatives, so like, I need money, store has money, logically speaking, I'm gonna rob the store. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is a logical act if you have in certain frameworks, right? Like, in that person's mind, they think that's logical, and they're going through a logical process. But from the outside, it looks illogical because, like, well, you don't need to do that. You can just work, or you know what I'm saying? Like, to you, because you're not in that position, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, a lot of people do things that, like, seemingly look illogical, but, like, if you're in that position, it's actually extremely logical.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at, maybe what I'm getting at is, like, even if you understand that there's a different, like, if you are someone who's capable of empathizing with difficult positions, right, that are different than your own. Like, if like, I could empathize with somebody robbing a store out of desperation, right? I could pretty easily do that. I don't know that everybody else could. I think most people could if you told the right story. I think that's part of, like, the importance of narrative on that. But, like, let's say you didn't tell a good story and you just look like the headline reads Florida man tries to rob a store with a cucumber.
An alligator.
Right?
Yeah.
Or rides into a gas station with an alligator and robs a store with the alligator. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy, right? And like, maybe you could even empathize with that because maybe you live in that area and you're like, yeah, no, that totally could work if I had like a pet alligator I trained, right? So like, let's say that, let's take it another step further. That guy robbed a gas station with an alligator and then tried to get away on a bicycle.
Right.
And if you look at the facts, he had a car he drove in with. He drove a truck that he loaded the alligator in. Why did he try to take a bicycle? Right? And like, let's even take that a step further. There's no logical place for him to take that bicycle except for a road around him, right? Maybe he's like way out in the delta and he's not going off into the off the road because it's all swamp, right? You're just gonna get stuck on a bike. Why would he take a bike? So like, basically getting to that logical dead end, that's the empathetic logical dead end. Beyond that, there are like things that happen to somebody that cause them to act illogically. That maybe in the moment they thought was logical, but even to them, when they look back at it retrospectively, there was no like cohesive logic happening. They were just panicking. They're panicking and they just made decisions that maybe
True.
didn't make sense at the time, but made sense, maybe made sense at the time, but don't make sense now. Like,
Sure.
but what I'm getting at is that even should be something you could empathize with because you do illogical things under stress as well. And like
Yeah, I think
you also have really complex feelings that you're trying to muddle through, and et cetera ad nauseum. What I'm getting, we're saying the same thing. I feel like
yeah,
there's an extra
we'll just
layer.
keep going. We'll just
Yeah.
keep going. I do have a personal example I can kind of give. That's maybe somewhat humorous
I
to
think
listeners.
I have one of yours as well, but I'm not going to say it 'cause it's not mine to say. But go.
Well,
for
you
it.
could say it. Well, I'll share mine, and you could share it too. Like whatever example you think of. So I was with my wife Jessie, and she struggles opening doors for various reasons I'm not going to get into, medically speaking. And she went to push the handicap door, like the button to open the handicap. Use
Yeah.
and it didn't work. And so I'm like, oh my god, I have to open the door, but she's in front of me. So what did I do? I literally grabbed her and moved her so I could get to the door to open it in front of her. And she went, yo, what the heck? Like, she freaked out. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to open this door for you. She's like, yeah, but you can walk around.
What the?
And I was like, okay, like, you know what? You got me. Like, I definitely could have walked around. Like, I didn't have to move you. But at the time in my head, I was like, oh yeah, I need to open this door. This obstacle's in my way. Just move the obstacle and then open the door. Boom. Like, life's so easy. Like, everyone else makes it hard,
Yeah.
So it's logical, like, but in a certain context, right? Like, in the
Right.
context of, like, there was an obstacle and I had to open the door, it's logical, but the context, now that it's a person that I'm trying to help.
It's almost like
And
you skipped the context in which you were like trying to solve the problem.
Yeah. I want to hear your story, because it can't be worse than that, right?
It's not worse than that. It's not better. So like,
Oh, God.
I was at a shoot. This is 2 years ago. I was at a shoot at somebody's house, and they had a Trump flag in the yard. And I remember being really kind of icky about that. Just at the moment, that's just kind of where my headspace was.
Trump.
Ugh, Trump. Right. So
Yeah.
like what was happening? So we were cleaning up for the day, and it wasn't. So the guy who was running the thing brought us out to that location. It was his uncle's house. So it wasn't necessarily how he felt about stuff. But like we started to get, like, everyone had left. We started drinking beers, and he like started talking about politics, but he didn't like get specifics. I didn't know where he stood based on what he said. But I just
Okay.
automatically assigned like his political stance based on his uncle's like flag in the yard, and then
Okay.
started getting really argumentative with him. And then come to realize he was literally arguing for the same thing that I was.
What were you arguing for?
I don't remember. It was stupid. It was really
Fair
dumb.
enough.
But like, I just for some reason skipped like even trying to figure out what like
Where he
it's not-
actually stood?
Yeah, but for somebody that might be like, well, you just assume based on like, but I don't always do that. I feel like it's probably anybody else probably would have not done that, right? Even like I feel like it was just a really dumb thing where I was just like skipping a whole step of like figuring out, okay, where do you lie on this issue, and then like going full keyboard warrior on you, just because I was like angry about something. And yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it was worse. I don't know. It was definitely wasn't better.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time, your logical, like, your logic was like, this guy has a bad position, and I need to attack bad position.
Because attack good somehow.
Because my position good, yeah, your position bad.
Mm-hmm.
Me think big brain.
Yeah. Why use lot word when small word do trick?
But yeah, it's interesting. Like, God, how do we get to this topic?
Bro, I could draw a map, but I don't know if I don't know. If
You know, I felt like we were on topic for like a long time, and I'm like reflecting back. I'm like, actually, not sure we're on topic anymore.
It's okay though, because I think
Right.
we're out of time. We're at an hour.
I was about to say,
35 or something.
yeah, this is a good time to cut off. And like, it's interesting that we were like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring like 2 different topics to the table, and like we totally only got to one.
But now we have it for next time.
Right, exactly. I'm like, next time, yeah, we'll do your topic, and it'll probably take 90 minutes as well. So,
Oh, easily.
I'll bring a backup topic just in case.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's no way, right? Like something as subjective as like your topic, like we could cheat.
You're listening to the Night Shift Podcast.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, without so.
So we're gonna do the intro now.
You're listening to the Night Shift After Hours Podcast.